So good evening, we're glad to have you with us this evening, and we're going to begin our session on county attorney. And we have both candidates are here. They'll have an opportunity to introduce themselves and discuss some issues with you shortly. I do want to go over the rules of decorum and professionalism once again, just to remind everyone. All participants will conduct themselves with professional disposition and provide direct and specific answers to the questions posed by the moderator. There will be no mudslinging and false allegations made during the forum discussion. If a candidate is challenged on a particular item, then the challenged candidate should be able to give a rebuttal. We'll provide 4 or 5 rounds for discussion, and each candidate will limit their responses to 1 to 2 minutes. Agreeable?
Yes.
Agreeable? Thank you. So let's get started. Round 1. Mr. White, what are your most significant improvements made in the office of county attorney, and what are your plans of re-election?
Okay. There have been many accomplishments since I've been in. The first thing that had to be done was replacement of the assistants that did not stay at the county attorney's office. My opponent didn't stay, and then I had another assistant who chose to retire, and so he retired. So the first thing we had to do was assemble our team. And we had one that stayed, that was Mariah Aubrey. She had experience in family court, and she continued to work in family court where she does today. The first person that came on board was Richard Couch. Richard Couch is someone who had experience prosecuting in the Commonwealth Attorney's Office for many years, and he came on board as the first assistant that was hired. Second one was named Haley Jo Fields. Haley Jo Fields had around 9 years experience in the public defender's office. She's from Clay County, and she wanted to be closer to home and work on the prosecutorial side, and so she came in. So the first accomplishment has been that we were able to assemble a star team of prosecutors to take us forward. The second thing that we dealt with was just a transition period. The person that I replaced was a 30-plus year incumbent, and at some point he was going to be stepping down. He decided to retire, and that's what caused the open race. And so we transitioned into a new county attorney's office for a new generation, and at the same time we increased service, and that was the second thing. We have made efforts to work in the community more, to be visible in the community. Clay County probably has more community events now than I can ever remember it having. And if you've been to them during my entire tenure, you have seen the county attorney's office there with the president. So we've been there to meet and greet people. You run into people in those areas that you won't see in the office, or that you don't see in the courtroom, and so they'll come over sometime and ask you about a situation they're dealing with, and I'm able to get out and see them in a more casual setting, and where they're more comfortable, and where that I can kind of meet them where they're at, and so that's been a change. And one of the biggest accomplishments that I've seen since I'm there is we obtained a grant for our first ever victims advocate, and that is a huge part of the county attorney's job. In Clay County, we have a system of both what I call public complaints, which is where that someone will report a crime to law enforcement. Law enforcement will come and they will seek a warrant or a summons for that person to be brought into court. But we also have a vast number of private complaints, and that is just where that for whatever reason the person just ends up by themselves. Hey, somebody broke into my house, I know who done it, and I'm here to initiate a criminal complaint on that person. So we handle a bunch of those, and when those are filed, there's almost no law enforcement involved. It's just us and them and their court case. Okay. And so this victim's advocate sends letters to these people, and by the way, this victim's advocate the salary of this victim's advocate costs nothing to Clay County. It is a renewable grant that we hope to be able to get renewed. It costs nothing to Clay County. This victim's advocate will make contact with them. They call them, they send them a letter, and and tell them about court dates, explain to them about the process. It's easy for me and the people that work in the office to just to get used to it, and we always are mindful that, you know, some of these folks that find themselves as victims of crime have never had any dealings with the court system, and you know, they don't know what time court starts, or they don't know, you know, where to go, and things like that, and so she answers all those questions for them. She connects them with the community resources. We have memorandums of agreement that we have with different rehabs, whether it be long-term inpatient rehab, whether it be outpatient rehab, whether it be counseling. We have connections with them, and we connect these victims with those services that might help them. Domestic violence, housing, whatever that might be, and to help them with that situation. If they need to call somebody, they can always call me, but you know, I'm one person, but this person here, you know, they're dedicated to our victims of Clay County. And so they're able to take their calls while they're there, and even assist them with compensation. There's funds out there for people that have been victims of crime where they can seek compensation. So this victims advocate does that. So, you know, that has been a huge advancement in the office since I've been there. There's been many things. I have sought to make the office more accessible. You know, Joe White is at the Clay County Attorney's office 5 days a week. You know, I'm there every day. If somebody calls me, I will return their phone call. If they come in, they don't have an appointment, I'll try to see them. If that's not possible, I'll set an appointment to see them later. And you know, I have an open door policy to the extent feasible, where that the public can come in.
Thank you. The gist I'm gathering is personnel changes was quite a challenge to overcome. And transition office systems and personnel, community activity engagement is a priority for you in the victim advocacy.
Yep.
That's the gist of it?
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Yep. A couple more things that we've done. We have added another prosecutor to help with the grand jury backlog. That prosecutor is able to work for the Clay County, also work for the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, which covers those same 3 counties. But by doing that, this prosecutor can come in and see these people at the district court level before the cases go to circuit court, and if they can work those cases out, then they can go in front of Judge House, do what's called information.
Yes.
It doesn't have to go through the grand jury. Your police officers don't have to be tied up going and waiting to see the grand jury. It speeds things up for the defendant. And again, that's something that's no cost to the taxpayer. That's a grant that we've seen. The last grant that we've seen is for cases law. There's cases law is one of the most important tools that we have for fighting maybe the worst problem that we have in Clay County is our drug problem. And when someone wants to file a cases law, we assist them with doing that. And we have obtained a grant, and if they qualify as being needy, then they don't have to pay those assessment fees, and they're able to do that for free. So that's just some of the things that we've been able to, by way of increasing services.
Well, we'll come back to some of those in another round, so thank you, sir. Ms. Corum, would you please share your plans to improve the Office of County Attorney, initiatives, ideas, thoughts that you have for the Office of County Attorney?
Yes. As many of y'all know, I was Assistant County Attorney for nearly 6 years, and as I was assistant, Mr. Bishop was phasing out, and I pretty much ran the county attorney's office. I did the job. What I think needs improved is Mr. White said he's easily accessible and he has an open door policy. That's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that it's hard to get a warrant if you need it, if something happens to you and you're a victim of a crime. I agree, we need a victim's advocate. Yes, that's probably a good thing. When I was there, I was the victim's advocate. I did it. I held their hands and made sure they knew what was going on in the court system. If you've never been there, it's a scary thing. It really is. Something else that needs improvement is child support enforcement. We need to be able to collect the money that these parents, I'm starting to say mothers, that these parents need to raise a child. You can't, I have a child. I couldn't raise my child on what some of these parents are ordered to get, and they're not getting. These people need help. I have, since leaving the county attorney's office, mainly practiced in family court, so I'm up to date on the child support laws, dependency, neglect, and abuse laws, family court matters. The drug problem, drug epidemic is a problem in Clay County. How do we fix that? Is it rehab? Yeah, that's a big part of it, but I think you also need education and deterrence as well as rehabilitation. So, if I'm elected, I plan on focusing a little more on the drug problem in the county and working closely with our law enforcement to get maybe some education. If you start small with children and teaching them you should never start, then you might cut the problem off before it starts.
You know, we used our DARE program back in the day.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm older than some people. And it appears that DARE was federally funded most often and was pretty effective. So
Yes.
we do need those outreach efforts. I agree. You talk about family law practice and understand those. And child support enforcement.
Yes.
I just want to get on that issue for just a moment. I think everybody ought to pay their fair share.
Yes.
And that's not a political slogan. Pay your fair share, raise your children.
Exactly.
So if you're not paying, then you should be paying. And you should not be having to be ordered to pay. So how about step up, moms and dads who have brought these children into the world and provide for them, regardless of court order or not. So thank you for bringing that point up. Mr. White, anything you'd like to add before we move on to the next round?
I have some rebuttal if you would like to hear
Okay.
it. Well, as far as the 6 years experience, that's true. There's a little difference though, I believe, in having the actual county attorney experience. When you sit in that chair,
Yes.
I am persuaded this is one of the most serious jobs that has to be in the world. People's world will fall apart, and they find themselves sitting in front of you, wanting to know how to get it fixed, wanting to know how that they can intervene in their child's drug problem, how that they can, what they can do about, the crime that they've been victimized. I don't know as far as like were there anyone would hear about, being more successful or not, but I don't go on what I hear, I go on what I know. And I know that I'm there many more hours. The workers that work there will tell you that. And I see or I call people back, and 100% of the time I can't do it. I can't do it in a situation where if I'm not there, if I'm in court, things like that. But we are much more successful, I believe, than what we were before as an office. I want it to be a little bit hard to get a warrant. We have a system, the downfall of the system that we have is that two people will get into it and they will run to the courthouse. And their theory is if I can get there first and I can get the warrant on the other person, then they can't get a warrant on me. Just in the last couple of months, I had two ladies that got into it. One of them was bleeding. Yes. And they were both sitting in the lobby of the county attorney's office wanting warrants on each other instead of going to the hospital. Right. They were down there trying to beat one another to the punch. And so that is a flaw in the private warrant system. Yes. And first night in jail, there ought to be a little bit of evidence that you did something. Yes. There ought to be a little bit of checking behind that, to make sure. So we have tried to do a better job screening than what was done before to make sure that those warrants are actually justified. Child support enforcement is something I think the numbers are better than what they was. At least some of the numbers are that I know of. People do need to support their children. There's no question about it. The best interest of the child is paramount in that regard. That's all I got to say about that.
Ms. Horn, any other rebuttal or any other comments before we move on to the next round?
No, let's go on to the next one.
So, Mr. White, would you please explain your understanding of due process and equal justice under the law? kind of standard constitutional question.
Yeah.
Due process, equal justice for everybody.
Due process is, I've always just used that phrase as a term to mean fairness. If someone's in the system, you know, they should have a hearing before that they are put in jail. They should be treated fairly. When we talk about equal justice under the law, I mean, I really, the lady, Lady Freedom, Mother Justice, the scales of justice. If you look at that, she is blindfolded. You know, why is she blindfolded? She's blindfolded because it shouldn't matter if you're rich or you're poor, you're black or you're white. It shouldn't matter. Any of those things shouldn't matter. You should be treated fairly under the law. I don't think it's a coincidence that she's a woman. I think about a mother who loves her child. They don't want to have to discipline their child. They want to try, to do anything they do in love. And I think that we can treat our defendants with love. They don't always deserve a break. But we should treat them like human beings. They are somebody's child or somebody's family member. Some of them's going to have to do some hard time for the very serious crimes they commit. But I don't think we can harbor hate in our hearts. I don't think that's right. So I think about that, and I think about the sword that she has, because sometimes the sword has to be used, and you have to know when to use that sword. And so when I think about equal justice and I think about due process, I just think about we can't pick and choose who we're going to prosecute. We can't pick and choose how we're going to treat different people. We have to be fair to all people, no matter what, and that's what I seek to do. That's what I think that the county attorney's office and all offices should do, and that's what I think those terms mean.
Okay. So I'm hearing judgment, decision making, compassion, and fairness from the beginning.
Absolutely.
Ms. Corum, due process, equal justice under the law. Constitutional question. You probably had that course at some point. And due process, equal justice. What does it mean?
Due process to me is fair treatment under the law through the judicial system. When I think of, there's nothing in life is fair. So when I think of being fair, I just think of treating people how I want to be treated. Somebody comes in front of me and they've committed a crime or they're accused of committing a crime. I want to treat them the way I would want to be treated if I was sitting in that seat. And I really hate that Mr. White went first, because I was going to talk about Lady Liberty and her being blind and everything. He stole my idea. But he did bring up a good point about a woman being more compassionate. And I feel like that's something that I have over Mr. White. I can be a worthy adversary and be strong when I need to, when justice needs to be served. But still, I can have the compassion and caring and treat people the way that you should treat people. If it was my child sitting in that seat that had a drug problem, I would treat them like my child. And in fact, I did. When I was working for the county attorney, I would have people sit across the desk from me at their wits' end, not knowing what to do because their child was addicted to drugs and needed help. And I would look at them and I would say, they're going to turn into your 4-year-old, but you've got to give them to me. You've got to let me handle it and let me help you through this and hold your hand. So, for me, due process, treating people how you want to be treated. I'm nobody important. I want to treat you like how I would want you to treat me.
So I'm hearing respect for individuals.
Yes.
Compassion for others with a healthy dose of prosecutorial discretion.
Yes.
And guidance. I mean, you're counseling families, right?
Right.
And defendants. Any roles?
I would just say, I would ask Clay County, who, by the way, deserves the best Clay County attorney possible that it can get. Judge me by the content of my character. Don't judge me on my gender. I feel like it is a slippery slope that leads into bad places. I have 2 boys. Beth and I always wanted a girl, we never got one. But you know what? I don't want my boys to lose out on the job because they're boys. I don't want their wives, or if I have granddaughters, I don't want them to lose out on the job because they're ladies. I just think that that has to be a straight line, and I don't think that we need to discriminate based on that. I think that we should look at the character and ignore those things, such as gender.
Is that part of the blind justice
I think so.
analogy?
Yep.
Rebuttal?
Well, yes, I would like to rebut that. Mr. White's put words in my mouth. I was not trying to be discriminatory. He brought it up. He opened the door to start talking about gender, so I had to step through it. I would never discriminate anybody based on sex, religion, race, dirty, clean, poor, whatever, black, white, purple, green. I'm gonna treat you like I wanna be treated. I don't care what you are.
Thank you. Round 3. We will talk a little bit more about the record. Mr. White, as county attorney, what is your record of accomplishment with regard to criminal prosecutions, domestic violence, school truancy? There's a laundry list here. Bear with me. Criminal prosecutions, domestic violence, school truancy. We talked about education earlier with county judges. Drug violations. We talked about it in every issue. We'll talk about it all night, probably. Criminal littering and dumping of garbage, and burglary and theft. Personal safety and security in your home. That's a laundry list. So have at it.
All right, can you give me that list one more time?
All right. Criminal prosecutions with regard to domestic violence, school truancy, drug violations, littering, dumping, garbage, burglary, theft, personal home security, those kinds of things.
Okay.
Now I'll repeat them again, because I do talk faster than most people. That's all, again, domestic violence, school truancy, drug violations, criminal littering, dumping, trash, burglary, and theft. So what kind of system do we have to inhibit that or deter
I
it?
repeat my position on it. Domestic violence is, all these are extremely important issues that I deal with every Monday,
Yes.
and actually on the other days of the week. Domestic violence is a very dangerous situation. It is one where that we have to come to the rescue, and then we have to deal with it in a way that is wise. There are many people out there, and by the way, I have women, I have men on my staff.
Yes.
You know, there's many people out there that will call and say, hey, get down here, so-and-so's drinking again, he's starting to hit on me,
Yes.
I need help. And our sheriff or our city police, I mean, they have to be on the way. They have to be on the way. They have to diffuse that.
Yes.
And almost every time, somebody has to go to jail in that situation, because you can't leave a danger, a perpetrator there, to inflict further abuse. So that is an important situation. That same person that called, the sheriff on Friday,
Yes.
a lot of times will call me on Monday.
Okay.
And they'll say, you know what, he's sorry. Now, he's sobered up, and we feel like, I've got to take him back home. He's working, he's going to lose his job if he's not here.
Okay.
And it's not best for my family, and just please, whatever you do, let him out of jail, or I want to dismiss that. And so we have to deal with the cycle of domestic violence, and we have to make judgment calls as to what we're going to do in those situations. If I take a position that, hey, you called and this charge has been filed and I'm not dropping it, no matter what you do. Well, you know what? Those don't carry life sentences. That fellow or that woman that's doing the abuse is going to get out at some point, and most likely they're going to end up back together. And then the next time, that person may not call a lot, because they'll say, hey, if I call him, he's going to lose his job, and so we have to make very precise calls on when to allow mercy in those situations, when to be hard in those situations, and it's tough, and we would never ever want to see anybody hurt, but we make those calls, and I'll just tell you, I lean hard on my assistants whenever that we have those. almost, in a lot of those cases, impossible to prosecute a case to the end if the victim is not willing to do it. If you have an uncooperative victim, you're fighting an uphill battle in the first place. But I lean hard on my assistants, and I lean hard on my judges. Judge Bailey Lewis and Judge Roberts are, they are sober judges. They have sound judgment, and I can ask to have one dismissed, but they have to agree with that. And so as a court system, we have to try and come to some conclusion we think is going to help that family. And domestic violence is a very serious issue.
Every situation is.
Because no one deserves to be abused.
Yes.
They don't deserve to be abused. And so I'm happy when somebody calls.
Yes.
Because that line has to be drawn, and I'm glad when they draw that line. If they allow that abuse to go on, that is a problem. Truancy is a huge issue. You know what? We've got to try to figure out how to fix Clay County. That's what I'm here for. If I'm not here after this election, I'm going to start practicing law. I'm going to do something else. You know what I'm saying? Clay County needs people to try and fix this county in every position. Truancy is huge, in my opinion. And the reason for that is because if the kid's not going to school, there's something wrong. It's not necessarily that little Johnny don't want to go to school. How does little Johnny want to go to school when he's 6 years old? When I was 6, if I had told Mom I didn't want to go to school, I'm like, well, she'd have jumped my ear off.
So let's go wake you up and put you on bus.
They would have been none of that. So, when a kid gets old enough to where they have to go to school, they need to be in there. So my personal belief is, and what I like to see, and this requires the cooperation with the Board of Education, because your pupil personnel is your police officer that enforces that. But what we seek to do there, and what I like and what I think is important, is to intervene as soon as possible. Find out why this kid's missing school. And it's important to do it in family court. You can do that in district court. You can do it in family court. In family court, if the child's removed, a lot of times it removes the medical card, it removes the check, and the families take that a lot more serious than they do the jail time.
Absolutely.
That's just what I've seen. Been doing this since 2004,
Yes.
family court part of it. And so I think that intervening as soon as possible and finding out the reasons behind that truancy is something that can actually help us fix Clay County in 15 or 20 years. This drug problem that we have is terrible. It's terrible everywhere else, but that don't help us. It's terrible here. We need to know. If a young person is on drugs, we need to know it.
Yeah.
If there's some reason they're not being sent to school, we need to identify truancy as early as possible, fix it if possible, and leave them in the home if possible.
Okay.
You're going to shut me up now, because I know that I'm going over. But did you know that it is more traumatic on a child to be taken out of its home when they do the assessments on than it is for a soldier that's been in war when some people run those tests?
It's traumatic event.
It is
Displacement is
huge. It
traumatic.
is huge for a child to be taken out of its home.
Yes.
And we learned that at a seminar that we went to. So, truancy is a very serious thing, removal of the home is a serious thing, but sometimes it's necessary. And so we have to take that serious, we have to intervene, and if the children have to be raised by somebody else, they just have to be raised by somebody else. We can't allow them to remain in a home that's not raising them, that's not nourishing them. The drug violations, there's two types I deal with. The drug users, those people need rehab. Depending on what type of drug they're in, how bad their problem is, it may be inpatient, that they need to go and stay gone for a while. When that happens, we bring them in. We don't want to put a felony on them for the first or second. If it's something that they're actually an addict, we don't want to make it to where they can't get a job later. What we want is for that person to get better.
Yes.
So we will encourage them to go to some type. A lot of times we'll do a misdemeanor conviction, which is easier for them to deal with. We set a review date. And that person goes straight from jail to rehab because that keeps them from running off. And then if they go and they leave rehab, we have a court date set so that we can tell if they're not there. And we'll ask the judge to issue a warrant and bring them back in and deal with them. Not let them arrested. Littering, as far as the drug violations, if you're selling drugs, you need to pull some time. Okay. If you're an actual drug dealer, you need to serve some time in jail. That's just the way that is. Littering, no excuse for littering, dumping. If you get caught littering, and I work with Project Hope, Danielle can tell you, I send her messages all the time from Corum. We deal with these certain types of people. If somebody has litter that's on their own house, and on their own land, you know, we will do a diversion for them. We'll say, hey, you need to get signed up on the garbage, you need to clean your mess up.
Okay.
And so that person, if they'll do that and they'll get going, then they can have a chance to have their case dismissed later, it's cleaned up, everybody's happy. If they are throwing litter out on other people's property, you know, if you're throwing out trash, you need to be picking up trash when you get caught. That person has to serve 24 hours of community service with Project Hope. We have sent several people to Project Hope and they pick up trash as part of their sentence there. And so, again, that's what we do there. Burglary and theft, old man Judge Bishop said one time, I don't know, he said, you know, they sometimes when that, you know, you might feel like somebody, deserve for you to be a fight with, but nobody never needs robbed, he said. And, now, of course, he was joking whenever that he said that. But, theft and burglary is something that is oftentimes a result of the drug problem. And when we catch them doing that, we have to try to seek restitution for our victims. Sometimes that involves rehab, but that's where your victim's advocate comes in. You know, we make a resolution that's happy, that makes the victim happy, that also holds the defendant accountable, so.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Horn, this is a wide-ranging, question.
Yes.
I want to give you some latitude here, okay?
Okay.
So, your stance on the prosecution of criminal acts, domestic violence, school truancy, drug violations, littering, dumping, security, you can home yourself. Big bunch of questions.
It is, and I wrote down track record. Are you asking about my stance or track record?
If you want to show your track record, let's go with it. Sounds good to me.
I can try to do both.
I love it.
Criminal side of it. I would argue that I have more experience than Mr. White. I've got 6 years with the county attorney. And there were times when I was working as assistant county attorney that I did district court by myself. I didn't have 3 assistants helping me. I would stand up and do these cases and get them done and be swift and just and make a decision. I attended the Kentucky Prosecutors Institute. That's a school where they teach county attorneys and Commonwealth attorneys how to prosecute cases. As far as my stance, it's part of the job. Justice, like we talked about earlier, due process, it has to be fair and just. If you are guilty of a crime, you need to have a punishment for that. If you're not, or if it's a situation where somebody needs a rehab or maybe a anger management class or something, the county attorney would be in a position to help that person. Domestic violence. So I took prosecuting the domestic violence case when I was in the county attorney's office. And I hate to bring up the gender card again, but for the longest time I was the only woman in the county attorney's office, and I don't know if it was part of me filling the role as victim's advocate or just that traditionally, historically, your domestic violence victims are women. They would open up to me and feel more comfortable with me. I prosecuted the majority of those cases while I was there. And the statistics show that when the victim does something, when they put their assailant in jail, when they try to leave them, there is a greater risk of the abuse escalating, of somebody dying, of somebody getting hurt really bad. So you have to kind of take these cases with kid gloves because you don't want to put a victim in a situation where they feel less safe because they did something about it. Truancy, I prosecuted truancy cases when I was working for the county attorney and family court. I've defended them. It's a problem, and it's something that you have to work closely with the school board with, so you have to have a good relationship with the school board. The drug problem. Oh, that's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah,
So,
it's huge.
the drug problem, I think, in Clay County touches all of these. So, if you're on drugs, you're probably gonna end up in criminal court. You're more likely to be a victim or a perpetrator of domestic violence. You're less likely to send your kids to school. You're more likely to not care and throw the garbage out. You're more likely to burglarize or rob somebody because you need money to get your fix. Not that that's going to be a cure-all to everything, but the drug problem is probably the worst problem we have in Clay County right now because the rest of this stuff stems out of it. How do you fix it? Some people need education, some people need deterrence, prosecution, some people need rehab. You have to pick and choose case by case how to do that. I attended prosecuting the drug driver school while I was working for the county attorney, and it is different than a drunk driver. The proof is different, the cases are a little different, so you have to know the nuances of the whole thing. Littering. It's a problem too. Clay County is beautiful, and we do not need to have people littering Clay County. We're trying to get tourism in. We are trying to beautify our city and our county. I would prosecute it to the fullest. I have been the city attorney since 2014 and worked closely with the city to try to help the problem within the confines of the city through different ordinances and things that we've done. Burglary, theft, personal safety. I think you have a good relationship with your law enforcement, and they have to be able to trust your prosecutorial discretion as to when it's a real criminal that needs put away or somebody that needs help. And if your law enforcement brings a case and it's like, oh, they're dead set, this guy, he's got to go to jail, but somebody's over here saying, oh, well, you know, they might need rehab. You got to work closely with everybody to try to make Clay County a better place. Not that I can stop burglary or theft or make Clay County a safer place. That's not my job. I don't carry a gun in a badge, but I would work closely with the people who do to try to make it a safer place.
So you're making consequential decisions on the fly with minimal information sometimes.
Absolutely.
Because that prosecutorial discretion, and that judgment decision making is vitally important.
Yes, it is.
Your vote, Mr. White?
I agree, it's very important, and, I would just say as far as working with law enforcement, one of the things that always bothered me, and I saw when I was on the private side, when I was on the defense side, is sometimes that, cases will be dismissed because that, our witnesses weren't there or whatever. So what we done immediately whenever I started in there is we divided our task up, and my assistant, Haley Joe, texts the police officers before the hearings on Monday and tells them, hey, we got a hearing coming up tomorrow, so-and-so's on, and talks to them, communicates with them about those hearings that are set the next day.
So logistics are challenging.
So, yeah, because before there's always been subpoenas, and there's a subpoena list, and they'll get their subpoena list and look at that. But the text is just a follow-up reminder, and we're able to have communication right next to the court date and be able to eliminate a lot of the, just things that might fall through the crack. And if it did fall through the cracks before, we're able to use that reminder to do that. I contacted the private victims, and between the two of us, we didn't have as much problem with that. So I think we've upped the game there, and
We're more efficient?
absolutely.
Would you like to add or clarify anything?
We're good.
Okay. We'll move into round 4, and Mr. White, you alluded to this earlier, being proactive in the community. What is the role of the county attorney in being active in the community and being the presence and the face of the prosecutor's office?
Well, we have people in our community who are trying to improve, that are trying to do good things. And this involves events where that we just have a time when the community comes together. This involves events like we did at the, down at the library with you know, with the kids coming for the Easter program, or they come for the Christmas, things like that. And, this involves events like I had at the county attorney's office when we did the Polar Express, to try and bring them in. You know, I think that it's important that the public understands that the county attorney's office works for them, and that, you know, that we are there to serve them. And so, I want them to feel comfortable talking to me about their problems. I want them to know that I'm interested in what's going on in the community. You know, I'm interested in riding side by side. I'm interested in Trail Town. You know, it's not directly in what I do, but I mean, it's a chance for me to get out into the public and talk to them, and it is involved directly with the county's business, where that they are helping with the trail system. So, you know, it's important that people are able to know me. You know, if you go to Walmart, you'll see me a white in there.
Yes,
I promise you that.
I think about you.
And so you see, you know, I'm a person. You know, I'm a play camp, and I don't go other places and spend, you know, most of my time shopping there. I live here, and I think that your county attorney needs to be intricately involved in your community to be a part of it, both as a citizen but also as an office holder. And so going out into the community is important as part of that access that I was talking about.
Absolutely, thank you. Ms. Corum, proactively involved, engaging the community, engaging with voters, engaging with constituency.
Yes, so I believe the question was the role of the county attorney in the community. These things that Mr. White has mentioned are things that I do anyway. I'm not a public figure. I live here, I work here, my husband lives here, my little girl goes to school here in Clay County. We're involved in the community, and we get out and do these events anyway. And it's a good thing. It should be done, and your public officials should be out and be seen and heard. I think the face of the county attorney's office maybe is more in line with what the fiscal court does and how they're involved. So your county attorney should be the face of your fiscal court, should be there and help your fiscal court to do their job and get their job done correctly.
Stay in the guardrails?
Yes, stay in the guardrails. These being involved in the community, going to events it's a great thing, and like I said, I do them anyway. But to really be the face of your county attorney's office, you know, you're not doing anything when you go to these events. I mean, you are, and it's good. You're supposed to do these things anyway, and we are involved in the community and there, but the county attorney should be there for your county.
So it's incumbent upon you as an active citizen to be there, regardless of office?
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, good deal. Your rebuttal? Before we move on?
I would just say, as a matter of good attendance, that I've been going to these events since I've been in office, and I haven't seen my opponent there the whole time. She does go lately. I haven't seen her there the whole time. And I'm just saying, I mean, that's the record.
Well, Mr. White has been in office during COVID, and there was not a lot of these events during this time. So lately, yes, when I felt it was safe to get my family out, we were having these events.
Thank you. So we're going to begin with closing remarks. And Mr. White, why should you be reelected to the office of county attorney?
Why should I be elected?
Why should you be reelected?
I think that looking at, as we go forward, my campaign slogan was, whenever that I was running before, you know, I didn't want to make anybody mad. I just wanted the job. I've been working all my life here in Clay County, and I felt like that the plan was just to hand it to Ms. Corum, which I didn't feel like was right. I felt like there should be an election, and so I mean, I felt like that I was where I was supposed to be. And I went and I talked to Mr. Bishop about that.
Yes.
And, Mr. Bishop, decided he wasn't gonna run. That's how the race come about.
Okay.
And if you look, and again, I always liked Mr. Bishop. And I like Mr. Corum, I like Mr. Corum. But I was not running against anybody. It was time for me. And it was time for me to step up in my career and do what I felt like was right for Clay County. And so my slogan was,
Yes.
moving forward with a vision for progress.
Okay.
And so, as we transitioned from a 30-plus year incumbent who was ready, who wanted to retire,
Yes.
who was gonna be the next person to lead our county. And I think that Clay County made the right decision, when that they did that. I came in, you know, I didn't want to be the landlord for the county. I could have moved that county attorney's office anywhere I wanted to.
Yes.
Not the child support, because they got another rule on that, but, county attorney's office, I could have went and rented out for sale.
Yes.
I wasn't interested in being the county's landlord, I was interested in the job.
Yes.
I wasn't interested in, my wife retired, and she subs about every day, except lately she's been going with me, but you know what, she come down, she worked for me at the county attorney's office, that's what she made.
Okay.
0, because she volunteered. You know, I just wanted to come down there and I felt like it was time to step up and try to do something for Clay County, and that's what I did. It wasn't about personal benefit. I can have asked for more money than what I've been paid. I have not done that. You know, I have chosen to do things, and then to the point of self-sacrifice, to see what's best for Clay County. And so, I think that at the same time that you've seen that, you've seen improved service. Again, you've seen me every Monday morning, I'll be sitting at that table, working in district court.
Yes.
On Tuesdays, I'll be at the county attorney's office. Monday morning before court, I'm at the county attorney's office. Wednesdays, I'm there. Thursdays, I'm there. Fridays, I'm there. I take calls. I get people contact me all hours of the night. They talk about who's gonna get the call at 3 o'clock in the morning. I promise you, my phone is rung at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And I have to make judgment calls at those times. I have, on-call list with me and my assistants, to where the law enforcement's down 911, Patrick had it. They can call us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so, you know, we have worked hard and done a good job for Clay County, and so I think going forward, I think that we have the bar, and I think that I think Clay County will make the right decision if they look closely at that and what we need to do going forward. Okay, I do want to say one last thing. I understand the worst thing that we're dealing with, in my opinion, is our drug problem.
Absolutely.
Drugs are cheaper than they've ever been. They are more dangerous than they've ever been. When I was young, there's a guy named Carl O'Connor. Do you remember Carl O'Connor? Carl O'Connor was Archie Bunker. And I could never believe, you know, actors were so, they were beyond life, you know. I mean, they just had more money, more fame, I mean, all this stuff like that. And I'll never forget his son overdosed. And I interviewed him on TV. And they said, what do you have to say about this? About what's happened?
Yes.
He said, whatever you have to do to get between your child and drugs, he said, you do it. And I've carried that with me. I'm so happy when a family makes the decision that they're going to intervene for their loved one that's on drugs. And so I feel like as far as a calling goes, I mean, that is what I feel like that I'm there to do, is to help with this drug problem, and that's what I want to do. People they're losing their children, they're losing their loved ones, they need help, and that's one of the main things I want to do. And if I'm elected again, that will be a top priority as it was before.
Thank you, Mr. White. Ms. Corum, closing remarks and why you would like to be and should be elected as the county attorney.
Yes, sir. Unlike what Mr. White said, I have never had anything handed to me. I've had to work hard for everything that I've ever had and ever gotten. I went to UK, graduated with a Bachelor's of Science, and actually I had an interview at the prison here in Manchester and turned it down so I could go to law school. I went to law school thinking that I could come back and help Clay County. I'm a Clay County native. I'm going to stay here. I'm raising my family here. My husband works here. And I saw that I could help Clay County if I furthered my education. So that's what I did. I went into it to do it.
Yes.
While I was in law school, I shadowed Clint Harris, followed him around like a little lost puppy, is what I tell everybody, and saw the good the county attorney's office did for Clay County. Yeah, I could have went out in private practice and probably made a lot more money, but my entire career, I have been a public servant. Even now, I work for the city. I'm the city attorney. I work for not-for-profit businesses to try to help Clay County. I'm not here because anything was ever handed to me. I'm here because I've worked hard and I saw a need in our county. I've made a positive impact in this county and I want to continue to do so. And y'all ain't getting rid of me. I'm here, we've got our roots planted, we're staying. So, county attorney or not, you're gonna have to look at Jenna Corum for a long time.
Great. So I want to thank each candidate for coming out to the city and sharing their views, their points of view, and I want to thank you each for your commitment to improving the county. And I will concur with both parties that our drug abuse issue is the stem of a lot of problems beyond that. So I appreciate your commitment, whether you be elected to the office or serve as a private attorney, that we'll work on this drug problem in Clay County and make it better for kids. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take a short break before the next session.